Hello everyone, welcome to this tutorial about strings. At the end of this video, you should be able to create and debug a string, to slice a string, to split a string into individual words, to format a string, and to have a very interesting exercise at the end. In Python, there are three ways you can create a string. Let's begin with the first method. In this method, you create a string using a single quote. For example, we can have name equals John. So as you can see here, the beginning of a string is marked with a single quote, and the end of the string is also marked with a single quote. How does Python recognize the end of the string? So it will match the beginning of the string, and it will find the first place it finds this single quote will be marked as the end of the string. So if you have another string, let's say x because I want go. Here you see that even though I've put a single quote here at the end, this is going to cause an error. Why is that? You see that here it prints that there's a syntax error, and the syntax error occurs where there is a T. So the problem here is that Python, you see this beginning of this string, and it will encounter this string here, and it will think the string has ended. The string is just from I to 1. From T here, it assumes that here this is the end of the string, therefore this causes an error. So to tell Python that this is not the end of the string, we can put a backslash. So by putting a backslash here, we're telling Python to ignore this as the end of the string. So now if I hit enter, it's going to recognize that as a single string. So you can see that when it prints it out, it doesn't put the backslash. This backslash is termed as an escape character because it escapes the normal logic of Python. The second method we can use to create a string is using double quotes. This works the same way as a single quote. For example, you can say name equals John, and this will work just fine. In this case, what Python looks at is the beginning of this string is double quote. So the end of this string has to have also double quotes. For example, using a double quote and a single quote won't work. This will cause an error. The end of the string has to match the beginning of the string. So if you start with a single quote, you have to end with a single quote. If you start with double quotes, you have to end with double quotes. In the previous example that we had, if we put double quote at the beginning, it won't recognize this single quote as the end of the string. Therefore, this will work just fine. Similarly, when you begin your string with a single quote, the double quote won't mark the end of the string. It has to end with a single quote. So this will just work just fine. Let's look at the third way of creating a string. This is using triple quotes. This can be triple single quotes or triple double quotes. Any will work just fine, and this will be considered a string. Let me show you an example with triple quotes. So we start with 3 double quotes, so you can use 3 single quotes, and we have the string here, and we have to end it with 3 quotes. Apart from creating strings with triple quotes also have another special use, and this is to do with doc strings. So as you can see here, you have a function is valid, and this function starts with 3 and ends with 3 triple quotes. This is a doc string in Python. It defines what the function is about. But in this case, it doesn't define what the function is about. Instead, it's just a comment about the function. Next, let's look at how strings are represented in Python. Here I have a string slices. You can access each individual character in this string using these indexes. So the first index is index 0, or you can look at this as the 0th position. And then you have index 1, which is A, index 2, which is I, until S, which is index 5. Indices in Python always start from 0. So in this case, we have 0 until 5 because this has 6 characters. So see, the final one is 1 less than the length of this string. This string has 6 characters, but the end has index 5. So if we have the string name equals to slices. So if we want to access the S in the beginning of this sentence, we can access it by using a square brackets and the name of the index. So in this case, we are using index 0 because we want to access S. And if we want to access the I, we have to use index 2 because this is the third position, which is 0, 1, 2. So this has to be 2. Apart from positive integers, Python also provides negative integers. The end of the string is -1, and the indices keep reducing as you go to the beginning of the string. So this number would depend on how long the string is. And this is very handy when you want to access the end of the string. For example, if you want to access the s at the end of the string, you can easily say name and -1. And finally, we can slice these strings like this. For example, here if we're interested in the L to C, we can use the index 1 and the 4 colon here and the 4. So the 4 is not included in the slice. It's always the index before this 4 that is included in the slice. So here we'll take a slice from index number 1 until index number 3. And if you're interested in taking a slice from index number 1 to index number 4, you have to put a 5 after the colon here. You put a 5, then this will take these indices here. For example, you can say name 1 to 4. And this will slice this string between index 1 and index 4. So this is 1 to index number 3, which is that. String slicing can be a bit confusing. If you have questions about how to slice a string, you can comment and I will be sure to respond. Next, let's look at some string methods. So I've printed here all the methods that we find in strings. So you have capitalize, which just capitalizes the first character. So for example, if you say name dot capitalize, this will capitalize the first character. And you also have another method, name.upper, which just changes everything to uppercase. So if you do that, we also have a method that converts everything to lowercase. So this is method lower. So here we use this full stop to access the methods that are present in this string. Another method that we want to look at is find. And find is just using for finding the location of a certain substring. For example, let's say in our string slices, we want to find the location of I. We can easily say name.find. And you see that it will show us the index where it found the first I. And this doesn't just work for a single character. You can use multiple characters. For example, I can say eyes. And here you see that it will show us the beginning of eyes. And the final method we want to look at is format. So this is used for string formatting. So let's see the basic syntax of format. You want to have your string and some brackets here. So whatever you pass to the format method will be inserted where you have those brackets. So here I have hello, brackets, and the name. So this name will be inserted here where you have these two brackets. Let's say we have a text here, which is hello. So this text, as you can see, has these two brackets which specify that we want to put something in there. So let's say text.format. So here we see that it said hello John. So it has replaced these brackets that we had here with what we passed into it, which is John. So now we have hello John. So we could change this to something else and it will replace this and put that. The latest string formatting method which was added to Python in 2015 is the f string. So the f string is much easier to use. The f string is more elegant and shorter. So as you can see here, you just put the f at the beginning of the string. So here we've used double quote string. You can use a single quote, it works just fine. And here we have two brackets where we want to make this formatting. And in this formatting, we've put a variable code name. What you put between these two brackets can be any Python expressions. Let's begin by creating a variable code name. And now to begin the f string, you start with f and the beginning of the string. Let's say this is hello. And I'll put this variable name between brackets and that. And you see that it has evaluated this name to the value in this name, which is John. And it's showed hello John. So this can be any Python expression. For example, you can have 1 plus 2, and this will evaluate this and replace the brackets with 3. So that's how you format your strings using the f string. Finally, let's look at an exercise that will help you practice what we've covered. In this exercise, you're asked to write a program that takes an email as input from the user. and the program should extract the first and the last name from the email address. To enable us to extract the first name and the last name, all email addresses are of this form. You have the first name, then there's a period, the last name, and at something.com. So here we have 3 examples of some email addresses. So we have mido.hams@iteachai.com, and here the expected output is mido-hams. Here we have mark.car@iteachai.com, and the expected outcome here is mark-car. Here you might want to pause the video and try out this exercise. Okay, let's look at the solution now. How did you find the exercise? Was it easy for you? I want to hear from you in the comments below. Let's look at my solution. Remember that this is not the only way you can solve this exercise. There are multiple ways of doing it. Here I'm showing you a solution that I think will be easy for everyone to understand. The first thing I do here is to ask the user to enter the email address. Here I've created a simple function that checks whether this email is valid or not. So the only thing it checks for is whether there's at in the email and whether there's dot in the email. If this email is valid, it will check the position of at. Once it gets the position of at, it will get everything before the at. Next, it will check the location of the period. So this location of the period is this one here. So once it finds that location of the period, the first part before the period is the first name, and the part just after the period is the last name. So you see here there's an addition of 1 so that we can skip the period. And the final thing that we do is just to print the name. Let me show you the outcome of this. So if we say Python, it will ask us to enter the email. So I'll enter this email here. And you see it has printed mido and hams, which are properly capitalized. To change this to something else at a.com, you see that it will correctly extract A and B. And if we just provide something like ab.com, you see that it's asking us to enter a valid email address. So this is based on this validation function that we had here. Let me know in the comments below if this solution is similar to what you have. And if you found anything confusing, let's discuss in the comments. Thank you for watching this video, and remember to like and subscribe to this channel. To everyone who's already subscribed, thank you for supporting this channel. See you in the next video where we're going to discuss how to handle files.